Welcome to Beyond the Spotlight. I'm Patricia. Today, we take a quiet moment to reflect on the lives of those remarkable souls who once shined so brightly among us. Their passion, artistry, and spirit touch countless hearts. As we remember them, we celebrate the beauty they shared with the world, a legacy that will forever echo through time. Matt Clark was an American actor known for his steady presence in film and television, often portraying grounded, believable characters that added depth to the stories he was part of. He built a long career in Hollywood, appearing in a wide range of supporting roles that left a lasting impression even when he was not in the spotlight. He appeared in several well-known Western films, including Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, The Life and Times of Judge Roy Bean, and The Outlaw Josie Wales. In these films, he often played rugged, working-class characters, bringing a sense of realism and authenticity that suited the genre. His performances were subtle but memorable, contributing to the atmosphere and tone of each story. Many audiences also recognize him from Back to the Future Part 3, where he appeared as Chester the bartender, a small but familiar role in a widely popular film. Throughout his career, he continued to work steadily in both film and television, building a reputation as a reliable character actor. Before his acting career, Clark served in the U.S. Army, an experience that influenced the quiet strength often seen in his performances. His background and life experiences contributed to the grounded style he brought to his roles. Matt Clark passed away at the age of 89 in Austin, following complications related to surgery. He is remembered for his long career, his consistent work in supporting roles, and the natural realism he brought to American cinema. Jorge Rivera Lopez was an Argentine actor widely respected for his long and influential career across television, film, and independent theater. Born on March 19, 1930, in Buenos Aires, he built a professional life that spanned more than 6 decades, becoming a familiar and admired presence in Argentina's cultural landscape. His work was valued not only for its artistic quality, but also for the emotional depth and authenticity he brought to his performances, which resonated strongly with audiences over generations. Beyond his acting career, Rivera Lopez played an important role in Argentina's cultural and political history. During a period marked by military dictatorship and restrictions on artistic expression, he became part of a collective effort by artists to defend creative freedom. Alongside other prominent cultural figures, he contributed to the founding of Teatro Abierto, a theatrical movement created as a response to censorship and political pressure. Through this initiative, artists use the stage as a space for expression, resilience, and social reflection. Rivera Lopez was known for his courage in standing publicly for artistic rights, even in difficult and risky circumstances, making his contribution extend far beyond performance. He passed away at the age of 94, with his family confirming his death while noting that the exact cause was not publicly disclosed. His legacy is remembered not only in his body of work, but also in his role as a symbol of artistic integrity, resistance, and the enduring power of theater in challenging times. Jay Hefner, born Savion Hopkins, was a 24-year-old creative from Ontario, Canada, who was in the early stages of building a career as an actor and producer. He was known among collaborators and online followers as someone focused on shaping his own path in entertainment, gradually gaining experience both in front of the camera and behind the scenes. Friends and supporters described him as driven and ambitious, with a strong interest in developing independent creative work and expanding his opportunities in the industry he had chosen to pursue. His life was tragically cut short in Lincoln, Nebraska, where he died during a violent incident that also involved an attempt to protect a family member. Authorities classified the case as a homicide, and reports indicate he was caught in a situation where he acted in the moment to defend someone close to him. His passing came as a shock to those who knew him personally, as well as to those who had followed his emerging career online. Beyond public attention and online presence, his story reflects a young person trying to build a future while staying connected to family and personal responsibilities. His sudden death left a lasting impact on his loved ones and community, and he is remembered for his determination, his creative ambition, and the sense of loyalty he showed in his final moments. J. Michael Bishop passed away in San Francisco at the age of 90 following complications from pneumonia, marking the end of a distinguished life in science and academic leadership. He was widely recognized for transforming the understanding of cancer at a fundamental level. Alongside his colleague Harold Varmus, he helped identify that cancer can originate from normal cellular genes that, when altered, become capable of driving tumor growth. This discovery reshaped cancer biology and shifted scientific thinking toward the genetic origins of the disease, ultimately earning them the 1989 Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine. His work laid the foundation for much of modern cancer research, influencing how scientists study, diagnose, and approach treatment strategies today. Beyond his laboratory achievements, Bishop was deeply committed to education and mentorship at the University of California, San Francisco, where he spent decades teaching and guiding students and researchers. He later served as UCSF's chancellor, where he was known for his thoughtful leadership and support of academic growth within the scientific community. His career combined groundbreaking discovery with long-term dedication to medical education. Even after his passing, his contributions continued to shape cancer research worldwide, leaving behind a legacy built on curiosity, rigor, and lasting scientific impact. Doc Harris, born Gilbert Arthur Auchinleck on August 3, 1948 in Vancouver, was a Canadian broadcaster and voice actor whose work quietly influenced generations of listeners and viewers. He began his career in radio in the mid-1960s, working under different on-air names such as Gil Harris and Doc Holliday, before eventually becoming widely known as Doc Harris. Over time, his calm and distinctive voice became a familiar presence on Canadian radio, where he built a long and steady career rooted in storytelling and broadcasting. Alongside his work in radio, Harris also made a significant impact in voice acting. He is best known to many audiences as the narrator of Dragon Ball Z, where his voice helped shape the tone and dramatic flow of the series. His narration gave the show a sense of scale and intensity that became an important part of its identity for English-speaking fans. He also contributed voice work to series such as Captain N, The Game Master, and My Little Pony. Friendship is Magic, showing his ability to adapt across different styles and audiences. Harris remained active in radio for nearly 5 decades, reflecting a deep commitment to broadcasting and communication. He passed away at Vancouver General Hospital at the age of 76, following complications after a medical procedure. His long career is remembered for its consistency, versatility, and the lasting impression he left through both radio and animation narration. 2 Oscars and a $100 million name might define Denzel Washington in headlines, but they do not define the origin of the man himself. Before the awards, before Hollywood recognition, before global respect, there was a boy in Mount Vernon shaped by contradiction and discipline. Born on December 28, 1954, Denzel Hayes Washington Jr. grew up between 2 powerful forces: a Pentecostal minister father whose presence commanded reverence in church but emotional distance at home, and a determined mother who enforced structure with unrelenting expectations. Their household was not glamorous or easy, but it was deeply principled, grounded in faith and responsibility. Yet when his parents divorced at age 14, that structure fractured. The streets of Mount Vernon offered a different kind of education, one shaped by gangs, pressure, and survival. For a teenager with anger and uncertainty, the path toward trouble was close and familiar. What saved him was not chance but intervention. His mother sent him to Oakland Military Academy, a strict boarding environment that replaced chaos with discipline. There, resistance slowly turned into focus, and raw energy began to transform into purpose. It was not fame that shaped him first, but discipline forged in discomfort and structure imposed during instability. Discipline, prophecy, and the invisible direction of a life. Before acting ever entered his world, Denzel Washington's life was already being shaped by forces he could not fully understand. Military school did not inspire him immediately. Instead, it stripped away distraction and taught endurance. He learned that identity is not built in moments of comfort, but in repetition, structure, and restraint. Yet the most defining moment of his early adulthood did not come from discipline alone. It came from faith. In his early 20s, while still uncertain about his future, a woman in his church, someone he barely knew, approached him after a service and spoke words that would echo through his entire life. She told him he would travel the world and speak to millions. At the time, he had no platform, no fame, and no certainty of direction. But the statement lodged itself into his consciousness like something unavoidable. From that moment forward, his choices began to feel less random and more aligned with something unseen. He enrolled at Fordham University, initially studying journalism, but the pull toward performance grew stronger. Eventually, he shifted toward acting, entering the American Conservatory Theater in San Francisco. It was not a sudden transformation, but a slow alignment of discipline, faith, and emerging talent. Early struggles, rejection, and the foundation of a career. The beginning of his acting career was not marked by success, but by struggle. He faced financial instability, repeated rejection, and the uncertainty that defines most early artists. He worked temporary jobs while attending auditions, balancing ambition with survival. Roles were inconsistent and recognition was minimal. Yet unlike many who abandoned their path during this stage, he remained anchored by something deeper than ambition. The words spoken to him in church still lingered, and so did the values instilled by his parents. Discipline from his mother and moral grounding from his father. His early work in theater and small productions became training grounds rather than stepping stones. Eventually, he secured a role in the television series Saint Elsewhere, where he played Dr. Philip Chandler. It was steady work, not fame, but it placed him in the industry's awareness. More importantly, it gave him time to refine his craft. He was not chasing attention, he was building mastery. That distinction would define everything that followed. Even in modest roles, there was a sense that he was preparing for something larger, though no one could yet define what that would be. Breakthrough roles and the burden of recognition. The late 1980s marked a shift that transformed Denzel Washington from working actor to recognized talent. His role in Cry Freedom earned him critical attention and his first Academy Award nomination, but it was glory that changed everything. His portrayal of Private Tripp, a formerly enslaved soldier, delivered emotional intensity that redefined his place in Hollywood. Winning the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor elevated him into a new category of visibility. Yet recognition brought complexity. Fame did not simplify his life, it intensified it. Public attention increased pressure, while private life grew, more complicated. Around this time, he was already married to Pauletta Washington, and their relationship began facing the strain that often accompanies sudden fame. Hollywood introduced constant exposure, temptation, and expectation. Denzel, however, did not publicly dramatize these challenges. Instead, he spoke carefully, acknowledging imperfections without surrendering his integrity. Beneath the success was a man navigating responsibility, identity, and moral grounding in an environment designed to destabilize all three. The applause of the industry was real, but so were the internal conflicts that came with it. Marriage, temptation, and a private reckoning marriage became one of the most significant stabilizing forces in his life, but also one of its greatest tests. Pauletta Washington, a musician and grounded presence, understood early that she was not simply marrying an actor, but a man called into a demanding and unpredictable life. As Denzel's fame expanded, so did external pressures. Hollywood offered admiration, opportunity, and temptation in equal measure. Denzel has acknowledged in careful and limited language that he was not always the husband he needed to be. These admissions are not framed as scandal, but as reflection. What followed was not public collapse, but private reckoning. Instead of separation, there was recommitment. Their relationship endured not because it was untouched by difficulty, but because it was rebuilt through conscious choice. In 1995, Denzel traveled to the Jordan River and was baptized, a private act of spiritual renewal rather than public performance. That same year, he and Pauletta renewed their vows in South Africa. These were not symbolic gestures for publicity, but decisions rooted in faith, humility, and correction. What could have ended became something redefined through accountability and belief in restoration. industry expectations, and the fight for artistic integrity. As his career expanded, Denzel Washington faced a subtler challenge: definition by industry expectation. Hollywood has historically offered limited frameworks for Black excellence, often confining it within predictable boundaries. Denzel resisted these constraints. He declined roles that he felt reduced complexity or reinforced stereotypes, even when they carried significant financial reward. This refusal puzzled executives but established his reputation for selectivity. He was not interested in being the most visible Black actor. He was interested in being the most complete actor he could become. This philosophy shaped his career trajectory and led him toward roles that prioritized depth over comfort. His performance in Malcolm X in 1992 represented this commitment fully. The preparation was intense, requiring emotional, physical, and intellectual immersion. Though widely praised, he was overlooked for the Academy Award that year, a decision that sparked public debate, yet his response was characteristically restrained. He continued working. For him, validation was not the prize. Truth in performance was. Training Day and the reinvention of a legacy. The defining moment of reinvention came with Training Day in 2001. In this role, Denzel Washington portrayed Detective Alonzo Harris, a morally corrupt and charismatic figure far removed from his previous heroic roles. The performance was unsettling, magnetic, and transformative. It challenged audience expectations and industry assumptions simultaneously. Some questioned the decision, fearing it might damage his established image. Instead, it expanded it. The role earned him the Academy Award for Best Actor, but more importantly, it demonstrated his willingness to dismantle his own artistic identity in pursuit of truth. The performance revealed a deeper understanding of acting as transformation rather than repetition. On the Oscar stage, his speech reflected humility, lineage, and awareness of those who had paved the way before him. It was not simply a personal victory, but an acknowledgement of historical progression. Yet even in triumph there was restraint. Denzel did not present himself as a rival, but as continuation, a man still in motion rather than one who had reached completion. Legacy, loss, and the weight of absence. As his career matured, Denzel Washington faced a different kind of challenge: legacy shaped by absence. His father passed away in 1991, before many of his greatest achievements. That absence became a quiet emotional thread throughout his life. Much of his discipline, integrity, and work ethic can be traced to a desire to make meaning of that unresolved relationship. He has spoken about wishing his father could have witnessed his success, expressing both pride and lingering uncertainty. That emotional gap influenced not only his career, but his approach to fatherhood. With his own children, particularly his son, John David Washington, he emphasized communication, encouragement, and presence. Watching his son enter the same industry created a unique reversal of roles, where guidance replaced distance. Denzel actively expressed pride, ensuring that affirmation was spoken rather than assumed. In doing so, he broke a generational silence. What was withheld from him became something he intentionally gave forward. A life beyond awards and public perception. At the height of his fame, Denzel Washington's life could easily be reduced to awards, financial success, and cultural influence. Yet the reality is more layered. His identity is rooted in faith, discipline, and continuous self-examination. He has consistently emphasized spiritual grounding, often prioritizing personal belief systems over industry validation. Even as his career expanded into global recognition, he maintained a practice of reflection that kept fame from becoming identity. His choices in film, his approach to family, and his public statements all reflect a consistent philosophy. Success is not accumulation, but alignment. He continues to work, not out of necessity, but out of commitment to craft. He mentors younger actors, not as an icon above them, but as someone aware of the challenges they face. His legacy is not frozen in awards, but active in influence. He represents not perfection, but persistence shaped by principle. The man behind the legacy and the question that remains. The most important truth about Denzel Washington is not found in his awards, his box office success, or his cultural status. It is found in the continuity of his choices across decades. From a teenager on the edge of the wrong path to a global figure of respect, his life has been defined by decisions shaped by faith, discipline, and restraint. He is not a symbol created by Hollywood. He is a man who constantly resists being reduced to one. His journey reflects struggle without surrender, success without distortion, and recognition without loss of identity. The prophecy spoken over him in a church long ago remains an echo that frames his narrative, but it does not define its entirety. What defines him is how he responded to it, through work, through faith, through family, and through correction when necessary. In the end, his story is not about arrival, but about becoming, not about perfection, but about direction, and not about fame, but about integrity sustained across a lifetime of pressure and change. What remains when the cameras stop? When the awards, premieres, and standing ovations are stripped away, what remains of Denzel Washington is not a public persona, but a private philosophy shaped over decades of pressure, faith, and consequence. The industry sees a legendary actor, but the man behind it has always measured life differently. Success for him has never been defined by visibility alone, but by alignment between belief, behavior, and responsibility. Long after Hollywood began celebrating him as one of its defining figures, he continued to return to the fundamentals that shaped him in Mount Vernon: discipline, spiritual grounding, and accountability. Fame expanded his reach, but it never replaced his internal compass. Even now, his life reflects a careful balance between presence and restraint, between achievement and humility. He continues to choose roles not out of necessity, but out of intention, prioritizing meaning over momentum. His identity as a father, husband, and believer remains central, often more defining than any character he has ever played. In conversations, he returns repeatedly to faith and purpose, not as performance, but as structure. The prophecy spoken to him in church decades earlier has long since been fulfilled in public terms, but internally it functions differently, as a reminder that direction matters more than destination. What remains ultimately is a life still guided by the same principle that carried him from obscurity to global recognition, that integrity is not a momentary decision, but a lifelong practice that continues even when no one is watching.